Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 1974 classic Christmas horror, Black Christmas. The film is directed by Bob Clark and it stars Olivia Hussey, Keir Dulles, Margot Kidder, John Saxon, Marion Waldman and Andrea Martin. Okay, now the film follows a sorority house. There is a sorority house full of girls around the Christmas period, and they are getting prank calls from someone who is clearly disturbed. Initially, they find it quite funny, but they start getting more and more sinister. One of the girls goes missing. The father comes looking for her. Nobody seems to know where she is, and things start escalating quite quickly. Olivia Hussey's character Jess tries to get the police involved. John Saxon plays the local police lieutenant who tries to figure out what's going on, but can they figure it out before it's too late? Right, what are my thoughts on Black Christmas? Well, I reviewed a couple of weeks ago the 2006 remake of this film. And I think I scored that like a 6 out of 10. I thought it was, not a bad film or anything, but certainly nothing particularly special. And I said in that review that I had seen this film a long time ago. But to be honest, that's true, but I don't remember a lot about it. It was one of those films that I probably watched when I was young, like a late night showing on TV or something like that. So I'd remember bits and pieces of it and kind of the prank calls, that kind of stuff, but not a huge amount else. So I was looking forward actually to re-watching this. I've read some of the reviews for this. It's actually regarded as something of a classic. And I can see why, because I'll tell you something, this far and away puts the 2006 remake on its arse in regards to quality. This is a much darker, more sinister film than that 2006 remake. The 2006 remake is far more of a standard slasher with fairly unmemorable characters, even though, there's some fun gore and stuff like that in that. This is completely different in regards to the tone. It is at times actually quite, as I've said, sinister and quite frightening. And I think the film does a really good job of delivering that, because the phone calls that they're getting are really sinister and quite disturbing. It almost at times feels like, the noises that Reagan makes in Exorcist, some of them bloody awful noises. It sounds like that on the other end of the phone. It's absolute chaos of this clearly very, very disturbed individual on the other end of the phone. And what I really enjoyed about this is the mystery of it. There's no easy answers as to who this person is, why they're doing it. It's just someone who is clearly incredibly unhinged. Like in the 2006 remake, we get a backstory and everything for the character Billy. Here, we don't get anything. It's just weird phone calls, very sinister phone calls, someone in the house hiding out and, sneaking about doing really horrific and sinister things. And you get scenes of this person from their perspective, so you never see them doing some really crazy stuff, some really unhinged stuff. Very, 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 challenged person, shall we say. But it never feels the need to explain more than that as to who it is, why they're doing what they're doing, which goes to show really how audiences have changed. I much prefer this kind of movie where they keep the mystery intact. You don't know who's doing this and why they're doing it, sort of thing. And the film has no interest really on revealing that mystery to you. It's not bothered at all. And then you get this really frantic climax of the film, where you kind of get red herrings. And I really enjoyed the way the film ended. Do you know what I mean? It kind of didn't care about giving you a satisfactory conclusion to the film. And I really, really enjoyed that. I thought it was shot really, really well. Now, Bob Clark, when the name came up as directed by Bob Clark, I'm thinking, why do I know that name? And then when I looked, this is the guy who did Porky's. One of the greatest comedies of all time. That really surprised me. I mean, I know most comedy is kind of centered around darkness anyway, but it really surprised me that he actually made a film as dark and sinister as this. That it doesn't really worry too much about what the audience wants. It's more worried about telling its own story. So I was really taken aback as to how much this differs from the 2006 remake. There's no comparison really in regards to quality. There really isn't. This is a far better film than that. I suppose I appreciate the fact that the 2006 remake kept some of the same beats, but decided to kind of, also beat its own drum and try and be something new and different. But as a result of that, we get an inferior film when you compare it to this, in pretty much every way, I think. And I think this as well has got such a great cast. I just didn't expect to see such a good cast. Olivia Hussey, Margot Kidder, John Saxon. I mean, there's a lot of recognisable faces here. Art Hindle. I didn't expect it. And while some people say this is kind of the original slasher, one of the very first before Halloween and all this kind of stuff, I get where they're coming from. It doesn't actually feel like a slasher film when you're kind of watching it. It feels more like a stalker film, almost, or a home invasion film in a lot of ways. Because of the time period, it doesn't show a lot, but also at the same time, you could argue it doesn't need to show a lot because it's already imprinted on your mind. This thought that this absolute unhinged individual is in that house with them, and storing bodies up there from his acts of violence, in a really disturbed way. And yet, because these actually feel like real girls or women, you do actually kind of feel a little bit of a connection with them, especially Olivia Hussey's character, Jess. And even Margot Kidder's and some of the others, I think it does a really good job of kind of making them feel grounded and real. So I was impressed with this, I have to say. I'm giving it a solid 8 out of 10 for that reason, really, that it really did tick a lot of boxes for me. I thought it was well made, good performances, very sinister, very dark, and genuinely disturbing at times. So that's my thoughts on Black Christmas. Let me know your thoughts, and I will of course see you back here on the channel. Plenty more content very, very soon.